Okay, all right. So today is our Ramayan day, and we are on page number 233, a friendship sworn. And this friendship is between Ramchandra ji and Sugriv. Sugriv. Sugriv said warmly to Ram, I have heard of your valor. It is my good fortune that brings you to Rishimukh. You would honor me by being my friend. He held out his hand. Ram took it and they embraced again. At once, Hanuman produced 2 arni twigs and lit a fire. He worshipped the flames with flowers and other jungle offerings. Hand in hand, Ram and Sugriv walked around the Agni to solemnize their friendship. See, this is an age-old pratha, which we still do. All our sanskars are around the fire. We see God in fire. Okay? So in the age-old way of Vanars, they chanted together, you are my friend. From now on, we share everything, joy and sorrow. They embraced again, and there was a feeling of great auspiciousness upon them, of a friendship well struck up. Sugriv broke a branch from a shala tree. He laid it on the ground and made Ram sit on it. At once Hanuman tore another branch from a sandalwood tree and set it down for Lakshman, who smiled at his thoughtfulness. But then Sugriv's eyes were full again, and he said to his new friend, Ram, I am a miserable monkey. With fists like iron and fangs like daggers, my brother Vali drove me from my kingdom, and he has taken my wife Ruma for himself. Because of a rishi's curse, he may not set foot on this mountain, and I have sought shelter here. But my courage is broken, and every breath I draw is in fear. He looked pleadingly at Ram. Help me, my friend. I seek refuge in you. With piteous little cries, he bent himself at the prince's feet. Ram was moved. By Sugriv's gentle appearance, he felt certain the monkey king's cause was just. He said, Sugriv, I will kill your brother for you. Sugriv danced for joy. With your coming, Ram, I have hope again. I will feel certain I will gain my kingdom back and my wife. You shall be the end of my fear. After years, I will sleep in peace without being tormented by dreams of death. As Ram and Sugriv spoke, far away in Lanka, Sita's left eye, like a lotus petal, throbbed, and Vali's tawny eye in Kishkinda, and Ravan's coppery one as well. Sugriv said, Hanuman told me about you, Ram, how your Sita was kidnapped. My friend, whether she is hidden in Patal or in Swarag, I swear my people will find her for you. He smiled at the prince and stroked his cheek. Then he continued, have no doubt, fate intended our paths to cross. Let me tell you what we saw a few days ago. We sat on the loftiest branches of that shala tree when suddenly the sky above was rent with the shrill cries of a woman. When we turned our eyes up, we saw a strange sight. A Rakshas, dark as a rain cloud and as big, flew across the firmament as the thunder cloud does the streak of lightning. He held a beautiful woman in the crook of his arm. She wriggled like a queen of serpents to get free, but he held her fast. She cried, Ram, Lakshman, and we did not know who she was or to whom she called, but all at once a little bundle fell on us out of the sky. It was her ornaments tied in yellow silk. We kept the bundle safely in case anyone came for it. Ram was on his feet. Why didn't you tell me before? Show me the bundle, Sugriv. One of the monkeys loped into the cave and brought back a silken bundle. With the trembling hands, Ram took it from the Vanar. He saw at once that it was Sita's. He touched it to his eyes and undid the knotted square of silk. When he saw the ornaments inside, poor Ram fainted. The monkeys sprang away to fetch water to revive the stricken Kshatriya. Slowly, at Sugriva's long fingered ministrations, he regained consciousness. Ram held the jewels out to Lakshman and said, "My eyes are blurred, child, but I think these are her ornaments. Do you recognize them?" Lakshman said quietly, "I don't know the bangles and the necklace, but the anklets are Sita's. All these years I saw them every morning when I knelt at her feet and she blessed me." Ram sat up. His face was grim. He said to Sugriv, "Tell me more about the demon who took my Sita from me. Tell me where he lives and I will go and send him to Yam's city." Sugriv, who was a loving and kindly monkey, wiped his own eyes. He touched Ram's arm and said gently, "I know nothing else, Ram, only that he was a Rakshas. But I swear to you, I will discover everything there is to know about him. Sooner than you think, Sita will be with you again and you will be rid of your grief. Calm yourself, my prince. Sorrow does not suit you." Ram was so touched at Sugriv's solicitude, he fell quiet. He even managed a wan smile and said, "I am sorry, my friend. Your concern warms my heart, and my heart tells me that, like seeds sown in fertile ground, your words will bear rich harvest. In adversity, it is rare and fortunate to find a friend like you. From now, I depend on you to find Sita for me, and I swear to you on our friendship, I will do anything to make you happy, anything to remove your own sorrow." Sugriv cried, "The gods smile on me at last, that they brought you to me. Looking at you, I feel that with your love, I can have heaven for the asking. What then is a mere monkey kingdom? I have your friendship sworn by a sacred fire. I could have no greater blessing. I will help you, Ram. I swear it in the name of our friendship." So this is the end of this chapter. Any question, comment? Very simple. And we are all familiar with this part of the story. Okay. So let's move on to the next chapter, the Vanarn Brothers. For some time, Sugriv and Ram spoke together. Slowly, Ram's composure returned, as if seeing someone else who suffered as much as he did restored his equanimity. Ram, Sugriv, Lakshman, and Hanuman sat in a circle on branches laid on the ground. Now it was the Vanar king's turn to recount his tale of woe. "For years since he chased me out of Kishkinda, I have lived in mortal fear of Vali. From forest to forest I fled until I arrived here in Rishimukh, where he cannot come. But even here my mind is not at rest. Ram, I see my wife in my brother's arms, and that vision torments me. I have nightmares in which Vali stalks me through evil forests. He ambushes me under eerie trees, cuts my throat, and drinks my blood. I cannot bear it anymore. I must have peace of mind again, or I will go mad." Ram said, "You are my friend, and your grief is mine. Your brother is no brother anymore, but an enemy." He laid his silver quiver before the Vanar. "Look at my eagle feathered arrows. Vali shall feel their points, Sugriv. He will lie dead at your feet." Sugriv embraced the Kshatri and said, "He drove me from my throne and my kingdom. He imprisoned all my people who were loyal to me. I sent his own Vanars after me into the jungle, but we five killed them. When I first saw you climbing the mountain, I thought he had now found the help of men to hunt me. When I saw your weapons, I was sure you had come to kill me. How grief dements one. A man in dread is afraid of the breeze that blows by him. Ram, my days have been so dark that only the comfort of these four friends has kept me alive. Tell me more about Vali." "He is my older brother. He was my father's favorite, and I was devoted to him. When our father died, Vali was crowned king, and no one was as pleased as I was. In those days, we were united and happy. He sighed, remembering. In our forest, there was an asur called Mayavi. For many years, there was enmity between Mayavi and Vali over a woman. One night, Mayavi came to our city gates, roaring to my brother to come out and fight. When Vali heard the demon, he sprang from his bed. His wives and I begged him not to go out after the Asura at that hour, but he would not listen. I went with him. When Mayavi saw the two of us come out together, he ran. The night was lit by a full moon, and we chased him easily through the pale forest. The Asur ran a long way with Vali and me in pursuit, until suddenly he vanished before our eyes. He had run into a cave. Vali's blood was up. He cried, I am going in after him. Wait here until I return. Guard the cave mouth, Sugriv. Let no one pass you. I must kill him tonight. He went in, and then all was quiet. Ram, not for an hour or a day did I wait there for Vali, but a whole month. I ate whatever fruit I could pluck from the trees around me, and I waited in terror of what went on within the black cavern, but I did not leave my place. One day I saw blood come seeping from the cave, and with it I heard my brother's voice crying out in what I was sure were his death throes. I was terrified that the Asur would come and kill me also. I rolled a boulder across the cave mouth. With the tears streaming down my face, I offered Tarpan to Vali's spirit and came back to Kishikanda. At first, I told no one anything, but slowly they prized the truth from me. Our ministers decided they would crown me king in my brother's place. For some weeks, I ruled Kishkanda peacefully. Then Vali came back. You should have seen his face when he found me on the throne. I fell at his feet and cried, How lucky I am that you have returned. Here, take the throne. It is yours. I told him now, I told him how I had waited outside the cave for a month, how blood flowed out one day, and I heard what I thought were his dying cries. I told him of my fear of the Asur, who had slain as great a warrior as my brother, and how I rolled the boulder across the cave mouth and went home. Seeing his suspicious, angry face, I begged him not to doubt me. But Wali mocked me in court. This traitor told you only half the story. After a month's battle, I slew the Asur, and it was his blood that flowed from the cave. But when I tried to come out, I found its mouth sealed with a boulder. I was too weak to move it, and I called Sugriv's name, but there was no reply. I wandered through a maze of caves, seeking a way out. I could not find any. One day, when I had recovered my strength, I smashed the rock with my fist, and here I am. And what do I find here? But this wretch upon my throne. Wali threw the ministers who had crowned me into prison. He tried to have me killed, but I fled Kishkanda. He chased me through 5 forests until I heard that by a Rishi's curse he cannot set foot on Rishimukh. My friends and I came here and took shelter, but I live in dread. I can still see my brother's blazing eyes, seeking me in the dark to have done with me. Sugriv sobbed. Ram said quietly, It is plain that only Vali's death will bring you peace, and I swear to you, he will die. So this is the end of this chapter also. Any question, comment? So now Dundubhi, that is the next chapter. But Sugriv said, Ram, my brother is no ordinary Vanar. He can leap across the sea. He can break a peak from a mountain and cast it into the waves. When we roamed the jungle together in our happier days, he would draw out great trees by their roots in exuberance as if they were blades of grass. Once, many years ago, there was another Asur called Dundubhi. He was as strong as 1,000 elephants. He had sat long years in tapasya and had a boon of strength from Brahma. Dundubhi came to the ocean and cried to Varun, "Come out and fight. I can find no one else strong enough to do battle with." But Varun knew about Brahma's boon and replied, "You are too strong for me, Dundubhi. In the quarter of the gods, there is a mountain called Himvan. He is the lord of all mountains. He will fight you." Like an arrow, Dundubhi flew to the Himalaya. He plucked off a few peaks from that icy range and hurled them down or smashed them to dust with the terrific fists. Himvan appeared upon his loftiest massif like a great white cloud. Like thunder, he said to the Asur, "Why do you disturb my peace? I am a tapaswin and know nothing of war. I cannot fight you." Dundubhi roared, "Like it or not, you shall fight me, or you must find someone else who will." Himvan said, "In the south, there's a beautiful city called Kishkinda. Vali the Vanarn rules it. He is Indra's son. You shall have little satisfaction from water, rocks, or trees, but Vali will give you the fight you crave." Dundubhi assumed his favorite fighting form, a stupendous bull bison. He flew through the air like a thunder cloud in a storm and reached Kishkinda at twilight. At the gates of our city, he roared his challenge to Vali. He stood snorting and lowering horribly and pawing the earth. When he bellowed, he sounded just like a grating Dundubhi. Vali was in his harem when the Asur challenged him. He came storming out to the palace gates, bringing his women with him, his arms still around them. He cried, "Stop your bellowing, Asur. Leave my gates if you love your life." But Dundubhi had come for battle, and he replied, "You can boast before your women if it makes you feel bold. You can even have a whole night with them. I can wait until morning. Just remember to indulge yourself to your heart's content, because this will be your last night on earth." Vali bared his fangs and snarled at the Asur. To provoke him, Dundubhi cried, "Himvan said you would give me a good fight. Looking at you, I doubt it. But we shall see as soon as you come out from behind your women's skirts." Vali grew very still. He led his women back to the harem. Putting on the golden garland his father Indra once gave him, he came forth, chattering his rage as we Vanars do. Horns and long, mighty arms locked, they wrestled and gored and struck each other so savagely the earth shook around them. But slowly that immense Asur, the bison, lost ground to my brother. With a ringing cry, Vali lifted the demon into the air and dashed him on the ground and again until life fled his shattered body and Dundubhi lay dead at Vali's feet. The jungle rang with Vali's roars. But my brother was not satisfied, as if he wished he could have had a longer battle with Dundubhi. Still beating his chest, dancing, he lifted up the Asur's body once more. Whirling it round over his head, he flung it into the sky. It flew aloft for yojans, but when it flew over Pampa and Rishimukh, the black blood from the demon's corpse fell on Matang's rishis. And who is Matang Rishi? Is a guru of Shabri. When the carcass struck the earth, the sage's precious trees and plants, which he thought of as his own children, were crushed. With the mystic sight, Matang saw who had done this. He cursed my brother. Let Vali and his Vanars die if they set foot in the forest or the mountain above my ashram. All Vali's Vanars in the jungle around the ashram came scurrying back to Kishkinda. He was amazed to see them swarm to him in such panic. They cried out all together, so he could not make head or tail of what they said. He roared at them to be quiet. Then one old monkey said, "You desecrated holy ground with the Asur's carcass. Rishi Matang has cursed you that neither you nor any of yours may set foot in his forest or you die." Vali flew to the Muni and lay at his feet. "Forgive me, my lord. I did not realize what I did." But Matang only rose and walked away, and the curse remained. Wali fled back to Kishkinda. He felt his limbs grow weak as a woman's in the Muni's ashram. Not since then has my brother come to Rishimukh or near the Pampsaras. Protected by that old curse, I live here today in safety. Come with me, Ram. I want to show you something. He led the prince to a towering shal tree, its bole as thick as 10 men. Wali could shake all the leaves from this tree with his hands. He could pull it up by its roots, Ram. I feel anxious about your fighting him. Lakshman laughed. You worry too much, Sugriv. But tell us, what can Ram do to convince you he is stronger than your brother Wali? So Sugriv is telling Ram all this to show how strong Wali is, all these stories. So Lakshman, he knows his brother is strong too. Okay. So 7 trees. Sugriv was briefly shamefaced, yet he knew he was right to doubt that any man could quell his awesome brother. He said, Don't mistake me, Lakshman. It isn't that I doubt Ram's prowess, just that I am so afraid of Vali. He fell quiet for a moment, as if debating whether or not to speak his mind. He seemed to decide for it and said slowly, Once we came hunting together on this mountain, long before the curse was laid on him, you see these 7 trees growing in a crescent. Wali shot them with 7 arrows and the shafts went right through their trunks. Look, the scars are still on them. His eyes darted from Lakshman's face to Ram's. Don't be angry, Kshatriyas, but I would hate to see my brother kill you. That would break my heart. Come with me. Around the corner from the cave mouth lay the skeleton of a creature that had been as tall as 5 men. Its huge bones glinted dully in the sun. Lakshman cried, What is it? Sugriv said, Dundubhi's skeleton. If Ram can lift this skeleton and throw it for a yojan, I will believe he is as strong as Vali. Ram smiled kindly. It is natural for you to be full of doubt after what you have suffered. I will do my best to convince you that I am stronger than Vali, though I fear it won't be easy. He strode up to the skeleton and lifted it with one hand. Effortlessly, he flung it high into the air. It vanished into the sky, and they saw it as a dim speck falling beyond the horizon 10 yojans away. 4 of the Vanars gasped. Hanuman was the most round-eyed of them. He alone began to guess who this dark prince really was. But Sugriv hopped around the place where the Rakshas skeleton had lain. He chattered to himself. Finally, he explained, when Vali flung the Rakshas here from Kishkinda, Dundubhi was much more than a skeleton. He was immense with meat and gristle, at least 5 times greater than his bones and 10 times as heavy. But if you can also shoot an arrow through one of the shal trees, I swear I will believe you are as strong as Vali. My brother shot 7 arrows through the boles of all 7. Ram put an arm around Sugriv. He said quietly, I will try to convince you. He drew an eagle-feathered arrow from his quiver. He strung his bow so quickly, the Vanar stepped back a pace from him. Ram bent his bow in a circle and shot one arrow of uncanny trajectory through all 7 trees. Sugriv gave a hoarse cry. His monkeys leaped into the air, glittering in amazement. Ram's arrow, which had entered the earth beyond the 7th shala, flew up from the ground behind him and settled back into his quiver. Sugriv whispered, Vali is dead. Then he shouted, so the mountain echoed with his cries. Vali is dead. Ram has killed Vali. He turned to Ram and grasped his hands. He danced around him, crying, Forgive me that I doubted you. You are among archers, but the sun is among planets. But Himvan is among mountains, but the lion is among beasts. But why waste time? Let the thorn in my heart, which has lodged there for so long, be removed today. Let me sleep this night in peace, knowing my enemy is dead. I can't wait a moment to be free of fear. Let us go and kill Vali. Ram smiled at his excitement. He embraced Sugriv fondly and said, "Let us go then." They set out for Kishkinda. At times, the Vanars loped along beside the Kshatriyas on the ground, and at others, they swung through the branches of the trees, picking ripe fruit for Ram and Lakshman on the way. Okay?
Hershi, I have a question.
Sure.
It says that Sugriv was Indra's son.
Yeah.
Lord Indra's. But over here, he says, putting on the golden garland his father Indra once gave him. So,
Yeah.
Bali and Sugriv, so
They are
wasn't
brothers.
it our
They are,
father?
they are brothers. They are Indra's sons.
Both of them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Over
they are
here, he
brothers.
says,
They are Indra's sons. So Indra gave that golden garland to Vali.
Bali.
Yeah. Okay.
He
And
says
that
his
golden
father.
his father gave. So that's Indra. So he gave. It's like a to protect him.
Okay. It
And we'll see
sort
that
of,
before Vali dies, he gives that golden garland to his brother Sugriv.
okay.
He
But
says,
over
"Before
here,
I die, put it on, because otherwise its power will go away with me."
okay.
Okay, so
It
that's why.
sounded like Indra was only his father and not our father.
No,
So
yeah,
that's why.
it's both fathers. They were brothers. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
So, and
Hershey, what is Sala tree?
Shala tree is the name of a tree. Shala tree. Yes. It's a kind of a tree. See, just like a pine tree, different kinds of trees. So shal tree. An arrow from the leaves. Sugriv stood at the gates of Kishikanda and roared a ringing challenge to Vali. Ram and Lakshman hid themselves behind some trees and waited. Vali was amazed at what he heard. His cowardly brother, whose nerve he thought he had broken forever, had come to fight. He would show him. He would mangle him. He laughed aloud in his court. Great Vali cried, "Sugriv has come to challenge me. Has he gone mad? Or is he so sick of exile that he prefers to die?" Vali came out of his city gates like the sun. He was Indra's son, a mighty Vanar in his prime. He did not say a word to his brother. With a roar, Vali charged Sugriv as bull apes of the jungle still do, and knocked him to the ground. Em- Emboldened by the thought of Ram hidden in the jungle, Sugriv jumped up and fought back. As they fought, both Vanars grew tall as trees. They rained blows like thunder and lightning on each other, like Buddha and Angrak, who fought across the sky in ancient times. The brothers battled in the jungle outside the secret city. Each blow was like Indra's Vajra striking, and the forest shuddered. Ram fitted an arrow to his bow. He drew the bowstring to his ear and waited his chance, but he could not tell Vali from Sugriv. They were like twins, as alike as the Ashwins of heaven. Ram waited, trying to distinguish Vanar from Vanar in the hot fray of curses and blows. But he could not. When he saw that no golden arrow flashed out from the jungle to deliver him from his brother, Sugriv panicked. He cringed from the fight, and at once Vali unleashed a flurry of blows to his head. Sugriv spat blood. He turned tail and fled howling through the forest. Vali chased him until he reached the boundary of Matang's curse. He roared after his brother, "Don't come back or I will kill you." Not pausing even to look over his shoulder, Sugriv flew screaming back to Rishimukh. He did not see Ram anywhere. Only when he had scampered up the loftiest peak did he sit sobbing his sense of betrayal on a wind-worn crag. Shortly, Ram, Lakshman, and Hanuman arrived on the mountain. Sugriv was just a terrified monkey now. He shivered and bared his fangs. He growled. He turned away from Ram. At last he whined, "You came here offering me friendship. You showed me how strong you were, but instead of killing Vali, you stood by while he almost killed me." He was so angry he would have attacked the prince. He wiped the blood from his nose and mouth and studied it briefly. Moaning, he shivered at how close he had come to dying. Tears in his eyes, Ram cried, "I couldn't tell you and Vali apart. You look so alike. You walk and even fight exactly like each other. My bow was bent, my arrow was ready, but I could not tell if I aimed at Vali or at you. I did not want to kill you instead of your brother. Sugriv stopped whining. He scratched his head and considered this. The Vannar laughed nervously as the truth of what had happened dawned on him. Ram said, "You must not lose heart. We will kill Vali before tomorrow's sun sets. Lakshman, make a garland for Sugriv with some Gaj Pushpi wine, so I can tell him from his brother, and I will know which one to kill." Drawing his sword, Lakshman severed a length of the colorful elephant flower creeper. Tying its ends together, he made a garland for Sugriv and draped it around the Vanar's neck. They slept that night without much comfort. Often Sugriv groaned in his sleep when his dreams showed him his brother, fangs bared, hands outstretched to throttle him. The next day, the rising sun saw them at the gates of Kishkinda once more. Ram had to reassure Sugriv repeatedly, hugging the wounded Vanar, comforting him. At last, Lakshman said bluntly that the choice was either to trust Ram or to return to his life of terror on Rishyamukh. Again, the Kshatriyas hid themselves behind a tree entwined with a dense creeper. With them were Hanuman, Nal, Thar, and Neel, who were who was once Sugriv's Senapati. For a clearer view, Ram climbed onto one of the leafy branches. Sugriv drew a deep breath. Taking the last shreds of courage in his hands, he rattled the wooden gates. He kicked those gates and roared his challenge to his brother within the city. In his wife's bed, Vali awoke in surprise. The coward he had given such a thrashing had come back roaring for more fight. Vali leaped out of bed and clothed himself. He would not let Sugriv off alive today. But his queen, the sage and comely, Tara said, "Only yesterday you gave Sugriv a beating, and he's back already." And I'm sure you know about Tara. Tara is Vali's wife, and she is one of the five Panchkanya, they call it uh, in our culture. Panchkanya. Panchkanya means they are always youthful and always the most beautiful. And who are the other four? Would you like to know?
Anji, Draupadi.
Yeah,
You
Ahalya.
told us before.
I told you
Mandodri.
before. Ahalya,
Mandodri. Okay.
Ahalya, Mandodri, Draupadi,
Ahalya.
Kunti.
Yes. And Kunti, right? You told us. Yes.
So not only beautiful, very wise also. So that's why it's said that sage.
Can you please repeat the names again? Because everybody was talking, so it was hard to hear.
Okay, Ahalya, Gautam Rishi's wife,
Right.
and Mandodari, Ravan's wife, Tara,
Okay.
Vali's wife, Kunti and Draupadi, you already know. So these are called Panchkanya.
Okay. Thank you.
Always young and extremely beautiful. And wise also. I mean, we saw that Mandodari, we will see that when we read this also, how wise Mandodari also. The same way, Tara also keeps on telling Vali that don't go. But he wouldn't listen, just like Ravan never listened to Mandodari. Only yesterday you gave Sugriv a beating and he's back already. If I know him, he would sit licking his wounds for a year before he dared return. I am sure he has not come alone. Be careful, Vali. My every instinct warns me of danger. Vali stared at her in surprise. Tara said, "Angad told me 2 Kshatriyas have been in the jungle lately. Their names are Ram and Lakshman. I am sure Sugriv has their help that he dares come so boldly to our gates. I have heard Ram has no equal as an archer, that he blazes like the fire at the end of the yugas. Listen to me today, Vali. Befriend Sugriv and crown him Yuvraj, and this enmity, it will benefit us all. After all, he is your brother who once loved you. Perhaps he did not lie about the cave and the Asur. My heart quails for you, my love. Don't make an enemy of Ram. But Vali was too angry at being woken from his morning dreams in her arms to pay Tara any heed. He cried, how can I let him taunt me at my gates? What kind of a king shall I be if I don't respond with a fight? As for Ram, I have heard he is an embodiment of Dharma. Even he could, how will such a prince kill me when he has no quarrel with me? But for your sake, I won't kill my foolish brother. I will only give him a sounder beating than he had yesterday, and he will never come back. Tara came out into the passage with Vali. She had tears in her eyes as she clasped him tightly, her slim form quivering in his arms. He laughed. You are frightened for nothing. Go back inside. I will come back to you as soon as I have chased that fool away with the thrashing he is howling for. Helpless, Tara went back into her apartment. Vali swaggered out of his gates, roaring for Sugriv. His brother sprang at him with fresh courage, now that the actual moment of battle was here. Raging like two storms, they fought. Their blows were like earthquakes. Ram waited in his tree, hoping that by a miracle perhaps Sugriv would kill his brother without his help. He knew if he shot Vali down with his arrow, that karma would cling to his name forever, and a stain on white cloth is always darker for being on otherwise taintless fabric. Tensely, Ram waited. Vali struck Sugriv with fists of thunder, and Sugriv uprooted a young shal and struck his brother back. They had grown tree tall again in titanic combat. Ram waited for a miracle, but again it was Sugriv who tired first, perhaps because he relied on the strength of another, while Vali counted just on himself. Suddenly, courage failed Sugriv. Vali struck him 3 awful blows on his temples, and his knees buckled. He swayed on his feet and began to fall. Then Ram shot Vali through the chest from his tree. The sound of his bowstring was like the end of the world. The sky and the earth shook at Vali's scream when Ram's arrow pierced him like fire. He toppled like a great tree felled by an axe. With a crash, Vali fell to Ram's cunning shaft, and at once the sky was dark as dusk over Kishkinda. They say Vali, the Vanar, fell as the Indra Dhanush falls into the earth on the Purnima day of Asvayusa, when the rainbow is pulled down after the festival of the king of the Devas. Okay. Then Vali's anguish. So before he dies, he asks Ram, why did you kill me? And Ram's answer is beautiful too. So let's look at that and then we'll...
Hershey, this is Raj. I have a question.
Sure.
It's about on page 241. If you can shed light on Buddha and Angraka.
Yeah, like Buddha and Angrak. This is not the same Buddha.
Oh.
Okay, no. This is some other warriors they must have fought in the past. I'm not familiar with it. Maybe if somebody else is, they can tell us, but it cannot be, because this Buddha, the Lord Buddha, which we know, is from Kali Yuga. Okay, so this they are talking about the past. Okay, so there must be some other warriors. Okay, so it looks like nobody else knows, but I'll try to find out, do some research. Okay, but this Buddha, which we know, he never fought with anybody, right?
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so Vali's anguish, let's look at that, because I think to me it's very important to learn what he said to Ram also, and what was Ram's reply to Vali also. Because often we question, why did Ram do it? Otherwise, he was such a just person. So he killed Vali in hiding. So Vali looked like a fallen god with Ram's arrow in his chest. Kishikanda's heartbeat stopped around its stricken king. Silence fell on the jungle kingdom. The trees strained down over the wild warrior. The birds in their branches were hushed. No warner made a sound. Nothing stirred as Wali lay there like a sunset cloud, edged with the gold of his father Indra's garland. His chest heaved. His breathing was agonized. Magnificent Wali lay upon the earth like a Yayati of old, who fell when his punya was exhausted, like the sun fallen into the world at the end of the yuga. He was a smokeless flame, incandescent and pure, a dancer in a dream. Ram emerged from hiding like a vision at the hour of dying. With Lakshman at his side, he came softly toward Vali. The silence in that place was complete, an ocean of quiet, the heart of death. Ram stood over Indra's Vanar son. Vali had shut his eyes in anguish and disbelief. Now he let them flicker open and stared at Ram, who stood unstringing his bow. Vali waited for the prince to come near. Then the fallen Vanar spoke, and his voice was clear, though death was upon him. How did you shoot me down from hiding like a coward? I fought my brother, not you, and suddenly you struck me with your arrow. You have killed me, Ram. Why? It was no empty question. Life ebbed swiftly from Vali. What do you gain by my death? You are a noble king's son, a prince from a renowned and flawless line. I have heard you are generous and brave, truthful and just. I have heard your compassion and your courage are hardly of this earth. Why, I have heard you are an incarnation of Dharma. A Kshatriya should be a master of his emotions. Patience should adorn his character. Manliness, truth, and valor. Just before I came out to fight, my wife Tara warned me Sugriv must have made you his ally, but I scoffed at her fear. I thought you were a man of honor. What should I fear from you, with whom I had no enmity? But oh, how wrong I was. You are the worst kind of sinner, the one who pretends to be Dharam itself. You are a dark well covered with green grass. Treacherous prince, no one knows what you really are until it's too late. I have done you no wrong. Did I come to your kingdom and insult you? Sugriv and I are not even of your human kind. We are Vanars, monkeys of the jungle, living here, fighting our own battle. Yet you have killed me today. You who are a Kshatriya and know every nuance of Dharma, you came here and took it upon yourself to string your bow with my death and strike me with it from hiding. Why, Ram? His eyes welled over. Wali shook his head slowly from side to side. We are monkeys of the forest. To us, fighting over a kingdom, a fleshy bauble, or a woman is part of our nature. How does our quarrel concern you so much that you kill me for it? You have not even heard both sides of our story, and look at me. All my glory is as nothing now that you have struck me down. Ram of Ayodhya, what will you say when the rishis of the earth ask you why you killed Vali? A king may hunt an animal of the jungle, but for what do you kill a monkey? Not his meat or his hide, not his bones or his hair. Brahmins and Kshatriyas may eat the flesh of animals with 5 nails, but look at my hand. It has just 4. Why have you killed me, Ram? His chest heaved again and speech came tortured from him. Dashrath is cursed that he has a son who is addicted to killing, and killing by stealth and deceit. If you had challenged me openly, I would have crushed you, but you crept upon me like a serpent in the grass and you shot me down. I have heard something of your story from my Vanars. I know you want to please Sugriv, so he will help you find your wife. But if only you had come to me first, I would have brought her to you in a day and Ravan with a rope around his neck. Instead, you have killed me. When I'm gone, Sugriv will have my throne, and that much at least is lawful. But not that you killed me. That torments my spirit as it leaves this broken body, because I don't know why I have been shot down like a beast on a hunt. His eyes were blurred and his voice had grown weak, but Wali spoke quietly. with no rancor. He said, Ram, tell me before I die why you have killed me. I want to know. I truly want to know. Sugriv stood by silent, his eyes not dry. Now that Vali lay helpless, all Sugriv's terror had vanished, and nostalgia and love surged in him again. Vali's breath rasped in his throat, and his natural splendor grew dim like a fire that had burned down. Let me read the next one also. That's where Ramji is answering his questions. For a long moment, Ram stood silent and grave over the dying Vali. Then he said quietly, I fear you don't understand everything about Dharam. Lakshman and I belong to the house of the sun. It is our Dharam in the name of the king, my brother Bharat in Ayodhya, to punish those that sin. We are Kshatriyas of the earth. The solemn power to judge is vested in us. You speak of Dharam, but you don't seem to know that by Dharam, a man has three fathers in the world. His own father, his guru, and his older brother. In this world, an older brother should treat his younger brother like a son. Sugriv was a loving and obedient brother to you, but you drove him from your kingdom. Worse still, you took his wife Ruma for yourself. That is why I shot you down today, Vanar. You broke Dharam by taking your brother's wife. I could not but judge you and kill you for what you made Sugriv suffer. He and I have sworn friendship by an oath of Agni. He is as dear to me as Lakshman. If anyone treated my brother as you have done, Sugriv, I would kill him. The oaths I swear are not empty. They bind me in honor. It is not appearances by which we judge, but by the soul. Sugriv is a pure and untainted soul, while you, who are so powerful, who are a great king of your people, are lost in darkness. You are beyond the pale of Dharam. A king like you must not be left alive. Vali's breath wheezed painfully, and his eyes shone with unworldly knowledge streaming into his heart at what the avatar said. Now he heard transcendent echoes in the blue prince's words, and they enfolded him, consoled him on the threshold of death. Ram was saying, the princes of Ikshvaku rule the world. You say I shot you from hiding, but through time the kings of the earth set traps for wild creatures of the jungle. We hunted them from trees or with nets. You are strong and valiant, but as you say yourself, you are a Vanar, an animal. I did not break Dharam when I hunted you. Not by what Ram said was Vali assuaged, but by his unearthly voice and the visions that unfurled in the Vanar's head as he listened. Like golden lotuses, thousand-petaled, Ram's love washed into him in a tide. The dying monkey saw hidden realms of life opening before him, and he knew Ram had killed him in compassion and in forgiveness of all his sins. He knew death was only the beginning of a deeper, more glorious existence. It was redemption. Ram's voice opened a path of light out of the bondage of the body, and when he had a glimpse of what lay beyond, Vali understood who this dark prince was, who stood before him. A smile touched his lips and his eyes softened. He knew Ram had not only killed him, but also delivered him to eternal life. Then he thought of his son, and Vali was snatched back into anxiety. He took Ram's hand, held it tightly, and breathed. Now I know who you are, my lord. Forgive me that I doubted you, but a great care holds my spirit back in this world. My son Angad is still tender. He is my only child. He has much to learn yet, and he will pine for his father's love. I am not worried about anyone else, not even my queen. Who has you has everything, Prince of Light. What is a Vanar kingdom? When he who has your love can be a king in heaven. Protect my son Ram, let him be as dear to you as Lakshman or Bharat. And my Tara, don't let Sugriv harm her. The light around Ram grew blinding, and the dying Vanarn saw it was the light of his own soul. His heart was awash on the sea of splendor, flowing in waves from the blue Kshatriya. Only Vali saw Ram as he truly was. In ecstasy, Vali cried, I answered Sugriva's challenge just to die at your hands. If I lived 1,000 lives, each time I would not die any other way. Look after Angad, Lord. Let your blessing be upon me, upon him. Vali's breath came in erect gasp as Ram knelt beside him and took his hand. Ram said, only fate decides how a man shall die. When he is born, already deep in his body, the secret of his death nestles. No man may live a moment longer than he was born to. I swear Angad shall have my protection, and he will be as dear to Sugriv as he was to you. I will see to that. Suddenly, they heard heartbroken wailing from within the walls of Kishkinda. They heard the shrill yowls of the Vanar's panic when they learned their king was slain. The monkeys fled into the jungle in every direction for fear that they too would be killed. Above the bedlam, Ram and Vali heard the ayuvating lament of a queen. Tara came out of the palace, bringing her son Angad with her. So let's stop it here. And any question, comment before I read the Hindi part? Because this is exactly what